Ugh, this phone drives me crazy.
Excuse me, I'm the Sprint intern from Sprint. Try my new iPhone XR with an amazing liquid retina display.
This is amazing. Mind if I snap a few photos? Look at that color. I love this display.
I'm gonna need that back.
Switch to Sprint and get iPhone XR 64 gigabytes for $0 per month with an eligible trade-in and a Sprint Flex lease. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com/iPhone, or call 1-800-SPRINT1.
Phone $0 per month for 18 months after $31.25 per month. Credit applied within 2 bills. If cancel early, remaining balance due. Excludes tax. Subject to credit. $30 activation fee. Coverage and offer not everywhere. Restrictions apply.
Wow, there's still music going. Aloha, everybody. This is Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com with your host, Janet Carolesson, co-host Karen Christine Patrick, and Reverend John Polk. And today we're interviewing our very special guest, Julie Thayer. This is the Experiencers Network on Aquarian Radio, and Julie is the Feline Philosopher. I love cats. I have 10 cats. So, Karen, are you there?
I am. Would you like me to read the intro?
Yes, please.
Okay. Julie is conversant in the topics of astral projection, ancient aliens, and religion. She has received a message on her second astral projection to spread positivity in the media, and that's her goal. She is bilingual in English and French. Parlez-vous français? Has an aptitude for languages, right? And once learned basic Russian one summer just for fun. That sounds kind of fun. She moved to Quebec when she was 19, when she was 19, to raise a family, Quebecois there. As an experiencer, she's been involved with ouija boards, seances, shadow people, blue orbs, UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and the trumpet sky sound that she has heard often throughout her life. She believes in meditation, sacred geometry, and the interconnectedness of us all. The practice includes helping clients with skincare, aromatherapy, and using crystals, and probably a lot more. And we can give your contact information in the middle and towards the end, however that feels comfortable. But you're right in our, area of interest. It's awesome.
Cool. Hi, everybody.
Hi. And John, come on and say hello. And how are you doing this week?
I'm doing really good. I actually found Julie via Twitter. We friended each other and followed each other, and then I just started noticing she's so positive. You know, she'd always have these little proverbial kind of things, and it made you feel good about yourself. And I started retweeting her, and she started retweeting me, and then eventually we started to direct message each other. And then that turned into me saying, let's just have a phone conversation. I mean, we can DM each other, for the next hour, which we do quite a bit actually anyway. And I'm like, let's just have a phone conversation, and so I can hear and feel your voice as we're all empaths on this panel, including Julie. I like to hear people's voices, pick up on the nonverbal. You can feel part of their soul when you hear them talk. Mm-hmm. And at first she was kind of nervous about it, and next thing you know, we talked for an hour and a half, and it seemed like 20 minutes. And before the end of our conversation, we were reading each other's minds, which I thought was really cool.
Amazing. Well, I think we all have that ability, so we just tuned into each other. Go ahead, Julie.
No, I was just saying it's nice to be amongst like-minded people.
Same here. Yeah. So let's start with you, Julie, then. If you want to tell us about yourself, and then we're just going to kind of go round robin. We'll ask you questions and put topics on the table and just start elaborating on them. So I'm going to give you the ball first, the talking stick, and you take it away.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my very first life experience of being born dead. I was a blue baby with the cord around my neck, and apparently they tried everything to revive me and were unable to do so. So they told my mother that she had lost the child and had taken me away, and apparently the nurse seen me moving my fingers beneath the cover on the way to the morgue, and if she hadn't seen me move my fingers, I probably wouldn't be here. So that's how I got my start.
Wow. So did they have to do any reviving of you, or you were just
they
saying,
had
hey, I'm here?
They had tried all the reviving and everything and decided that they'd done what they could do, and that was it. That was all. And I just, for whatever reason, got a spark on my own, I guess. And here I am. That was my first, I guess you would say, near-death experience, except I was actually dead. Like that was it. I was on my way to the morgue.
So then what happened? What did they do?
So then I guess the doctors, like she notified the doctors, everything came running. They did loads and loads of tests, and I was in the hospital for a few weeks just being monitored, and really didn't have any issues from that, other than always knowing things and stuff, like having abilities from a very young age.
What were some of your abilities? What could you do that others couldn't?
When I was younger, my dreams were very prophetic, and I had the bad, what would you say? I was very direct as a child, and if I seen something dark, I would tell you about it with no hesitation. Like if I felt that somebody in your life was going to die, I would just say, oh, hey, you should kiss so-and-so because it's going to be the last or something. I was just that type of child. I was brought up, my mother was into tea leaf reading and the ouija boards, and so I was already brought up with no indication that magic wasn't real.
Mm-hmm. So
that was, yep, go ahead.
Okay, Karen, do you have a question or topic?
Yeah,
on the table?
Yeah, like near-death experiences at a very young age. I believe I had one when I was either 2 or 3. Do you have any remembrances from any of that?
I do from when I was 3 years old. I had a very bad case of tonsillitis, and they gave me tetracycline, which turns out I was deathly allergic to, but you don't know things like that until it happens. So that, again, put me in a coma. I remember bits and parts from the coma. I was in a coma for 3 weeks when I was 3, and I was out of my body the whole time. I was wandering around the hospital, and I remember complaining, trying to complain to the nurses that I needed underwear. Because you're a child in the hospital, you just have a little gown and you're not wearing anything, and I was walking around with no underwear on, and I thought that was highly inappropriate for a 3-year-old. And I was being ignored, and I didn't get it.
Also, that usually sets somebody up, every case I know about, for someone being clairvoyant, having psi abilities or psychic abilities. When did you kind of realize you were freaking out the grown-ups?
When my mom took me, before I was 5, she took me to this lady called the Queen Bee, and they did some binding something on me, and that tuned down a lot of.
Was that a Masonic ritual? Because I know they have the Queen Bee. Or
yeah, my father was a Mason, and his whole family were in the Mason, and that was kind of hidden from me. I'm just going through my dad's stuff I found a lot of things for it. So I would tend to agree with your thought on that.
Yeah, because they don't want their kid to be weird. So if there's any kind of way to, tamp that down so that your kid will be normal and not weird, they tend to do that. So then did that continue for you? Did you try to be normal? I mean, how was your growing up time after that?
I had a good set of friends, but I was always the weird kid, obviously, because, you can't help seeing things. And so I was the kid that was doing seances for all the other kids, and, if they had a spirit behind them, I was able to communicate a lot better with spirits back then when I was younger. It kind of got blocked out a lot when I turned 13 for whatever reason. But before that, I did like a lot of seances and got myself into trouble with a lot of that. Yeah. Like
okay. What kind of trouble? What kind of trouble?
Well,
what happened?
When you're a kid, you don't know what you're doing. So I was opening up portals to bring in spirits and not sending them away and letting them hang around. So if I went to your kid's house and all the parents were out and they're like, let's do a seance, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm down, and I'd do a seance and then go away and leave their house full of spirits.
Oh, what kind of things happen? And then I'll let John ask the question.
The last seance I did, I was about 12, and we did it in, I come from a small town on a lake, so we had like fishing huts in the wintertime. And so the fishing huts in the summertime were hideout spots for kids to either, their groups and their gangs and their secret meetings and their clubs. So we had this one big fish hut that fit about 12 of us, and we would do our seances in there, and they wanted Jack the Ripper of all people. So I tried channeling him, and I don't know who I got, but 3 of them got slashed, and it was like traumatic for everybody involved, and that was the last time I've done a seance.
3 of them got slashed? Like,
yeah,
slashed,
there was 3 of them.
Slashed?
Yeah, 3 of them that got like not scratches, but real cuts, like you would with a razor blade or something.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they weren't they were about 3 inches. Like, I'm going from like a 12-year-old like I was 12 at the time, but they were fairly large scratches, and they were bleeding a lot. Like, we had first aid in the fish huts anyway, so I attended to them, and everybody swore we weren't ever going to speak of this again, and nobody did, as far as I know.
Wow. Yeah, I think you caused trouble. Okay.
Yeah, I caused trouble when I was a kid. Yeah.
You were a troublemaker. John, what do you have to say about all that?
Well, when I was a kid, my mom introduced me to the Ouija board when I was 5 years old. And I can remember, we're doing the Ouija board, and so everybody is doubting the other person. Like, are you moving it? No. Are you moving it? No. Or do you promise? I promise I'm not moving it. And it goes back and forth, until you finally come to some kind of energy amongst yourselves where you believe that neither one of you are moving it, and it is the spirit world that's moving it. So I remember one of my first experiences doing it with my mom. We wanted to find out who I was in a past life. So when I was 5 years old, I was introduced to the concept of reincarnation and could understand it. It made it, my mom, raised me on the paranormal and on extraterrestrials. So, that's why I am who I am today. Thank God. My dad was a university president, and he offered me jobs to work for him and make a lot of money. I never wanted to do that. I always wanted to pursue this. But anyway, that turned into, what I'm doing today and my ability to communicate with the other side. And I know that by using the Ouija board, and I don't endorse it anymore whatsoever, but by using the Ouija board, it did open vortexes. It did enable me to walk in both worlds. And the funny thing is that one of the first times we used the Ouija board, it spelled out the name Rudolph Valentino. So supposedly it was if it was correct that I was Rudolph Valentino in my previous life, which I thought was a total trip. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't feel like it's true, but I don't feel like it's not true. I just kind of just let it go. I haven't thought of it in a number of years. But reading up on some of the information you gave us, you were talking about using the Ouija board, Julie, and then you quit. And instead of me telling why you quit, why don't you tell us what happened?
Well, the same thing. I started getting really weird experiences, and the way that my childhood house was built, if you can imagine, there was a hallway, and then around the hallway, all the rooms connected. Did you get a gist of what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I do.
So in the middle of the house, we had a hallway, which all had like 7 doors that connected to the 7 rooms of the house. So that was center of the house. So I don't know what possessed me, but I sat in the middle of the hallway, and we closed all the doors and shut off all the lights, and we had the Ouija board and just a candle, and it was me and my best friend. And we were like, asking questions. Who am I going to marry? Incidentally, it spelled out my husband's first name, Jeff, and then it went to the initial P. And at the time, the only Jeff P I knew was a boy in school, and he was like my best friend. We were raised almost like brother and sister, and I was like, oh my God, can't imagine marrying him. So I said, I'm not even going to pursue the rest of the last name. So I ended up dating him immediately after that to get that off of the plate, so I could say, okay, no, that was wrong. Okay, he's dated and he's gone now. But I ended up marrying a Jeff P, and there you go. So anyways,
wow.
We had brought through a bad spirit, and all of a sudden X's appeared everywhere. There was X's on the doors, X's on the walls, X's on us. We freaked out majorly. Things were moving, and I knew right away it was evil. So we went out and burnt the Ouija board, hoping that would dispel whatever it was. And it was actually so bad that we ended up selling the house and moving.
Oh, my God.
Whoa.
Well, that was a bad experience. I'll share my Ouija board experience if that's, maybe Karen has one. So we all had, that was a very common toy back in the 60s.
In the 70s, yeah.
The Ouija, and in the 70s, right, the Ouija board. So, of course, we had one, and it was just a toy. But then my house was an interdimensional portal. It was very haunted naturally. So we had Larry was the 7th son of the 7th son. So one day, he had told me about his Ouija board when he and his family would be coming Carolina up to Pennsylvania, and they would communicate with dead Civil War soldiers. And they were talking to one on the Ouija board, and he said, "Please come and get me. I was never buried. I'm still walking around, and I can't go home." So this guy gave them directions, and the parents were like your parents, John, very open-minded. They said, "Okay, you're communicating with some dead, Southern soldier from the Civil War," and so they followed the directions, and it led them to where his body was, and I don't know what they found, a whole skeleton or just part of him or something, but they dug a hole and they buried him, and then they went back to Pennsylvania. So when he told me that story, I said, fascinating. Let's do that sometime. So we were at my house with an interdimensional portal, always haunted, but we forgot the Ouija board. So he says, well, I know another way of doing it. I'm going to put a writing utensil, a pencil, in my non-dominant hand, and then we'll ask questions. And we've got to turn the lights down really low. We're just going to put a candle in the middle. So we have to wait till all your folks are gone. So we're trying to seance, right? And now he's got a pencil loosely in his hand. It's his non-dominant hand, and it's really, really dark. You can hardly see, just a tiny flame. And so we asked all these questions, and he was like channeling, and all these answers were coming out of him. And then we said, well, let's see, Then the guy left, and he said he was the owner of the house, original builder of the house. And I found out later the house was built in like 1840. So anyway, when we turned on the light to see what it was a perfect circle with a perfect face. The eyes were in a perfect place, and the mouth and the nose. And, he had a beard. He said, this is a rendition of me. So I thought that was pretty impossible to do with the way his hand was and how dark it was. He might have been able to draw a circle and all that stuff, but not to get everything in there perfectly. So I kept that for years, but it was just so freaky that I just eventually threw it away because I had to live in that house, right?
Yep.
And my sister still has it. So anyway.
Oh.
Somebody else or comments on that. Anybody can comment on anything.
No,
back to you guys.
I've seen automatic writing, what they call it. I've tried it myself. I don't have the ability yet. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, no, I've seen it. I've seen Ty Henry, I think his name is, the new Hollywood medium, does automatic writing in his seances and things that he does with his clients.
Mhm. Karen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I feel really left. I'm the only weird kid that didn't play with the Ouija board in this group here. I was raised fundamentalist, so there wasn't going to be this Ouija board thing anywhere near me, okay? So how am I, awareness of my psychic formational being basically clairaudient, clairvoyant, precognitive, I started realizing I was saying stuff, and, I was knew when people were going to die, I knew things. I knew facts, or, that sort of thing. And then the other influence for me to explore all of this was that I was in a psychic family. From my grandmother to my aunties to myself, at least my female side, we all had these, things that we called it, because we're all Irish, I saw my last name Patrick. Yeah, right. We're getting our Irishes up. So if we, for instance, we had things happen like Christmas time. You have 1,000 different types of wrapping paper you could pick from Grandma and my aunties and my mom. They would all pick the same wrapping paper, and they're in different parts of the country, like Barstow, all over California. They picked the same wrapping paper, stuff like that. Or my mom was famous for being almost impossible to, you gave her the present in her hand and she used to guess what it was, because especially if it had a bright color. And we were just astonished at her doing that. So, it was just stuff like that. And then, the other thing that was going on, because I'm kind of a planetary light worker, level light worker, I had tons of information coming to me, plus my dad was I'm a second-generation conspiracy theorist, about the situation of the world, which is really tough to handle when you're growing up. Like, look, can I just grow up? Let me grow up, please, without having my head burdened with all this stuff, I had, if I was talking to anything in my head, it'd be my version of God or the Holy Spirit or something like that. But as I got older, I got what is this? I needed to know, and eventually I kind of reached a crisis point where my experiences of what I was going through kind of conflicted with the belief system that I was given, because they were just saying all this stuff doesn't exist anymore or whatever, and I was having all these experiences, and it's like I had this moment where I was caught, the implant broke, and I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding. It sounds like a joke, but it isn't. And I literally heard this ping, like a little tiny watch battery, like when your watch alarm goes off, those little pings from the piezoelectric speaker. Only it went off inside my head, and it echoed around on my skull pan for a minute or two. And then I was completely disoriented for a couple of minutes. And then I literally felt like I had this README file pop up in my mind, and it was basically describing what this thing was. I didn't know where that was coming from either. Now, over time, I kind of realized two things. One, I was able to read the morphogenetic, Akashic record, what do you want to call it, that field, whenever I needed to. And two, I had helpers. I had beings, ancestors, ET, spirits, who were helping me to learn these things. So that's kind of what was going on, is that, I realized there was more going on, and I finally decided I'm going to accept my personal experience and not just what I'm told, and get to decide for myself instead of somebody telling me that. So that's kind of my path and journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'd like to correct you on conspiracy theorist. Your conspiracy analyst is much nicer.
Ah.
Or how about conspiracy
analyst?
Well, see,
conspiracy realist, yeah.
I call myself a conspiracy analyst because I look at the theories and then I look for the truths and the not truths, and I try and get to the bottom of it. So I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst.
Analyst. That's great. So, John, what would you like to talk about or ask Julie?
Well, I'm looking at some of the talking points that she sent us, and we all know a lot about a lot of these things, but some of the things that I really don't know a whole lot about are reading tea leaves. That is completely new on me, and I do know some about aromatherapy, but I couldn't sit here and tell you a whole lot about it that you don't know already. So first of all, so it was your mom that read the tea leaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where does that practice even originate from? And explain it to us better. And then how about finish by explaining more about aromatherapy and how you use it in your life? Yeah, and
sure,
also, do you use aromatherapy with clients to help people, or is it for you more personally, or how is aromatherapy part of your life?
Well, I'll start with the tea leaves first.
Okay.
Actually, I couldn't tell you. It's a gypsy thing. So I'm assuming it probably comes from Romania, that part. What you do is you sit down with somebody and you have a nice cup of tea with them in a conversation, and you drink the tea with the leaves loose in the water. So they have to drink the whole cup down without getting any of the leaves, which is, it gets a little tricky towards the end. So you drink the whole cup down so there's hardly any liquid left. Then you take the tea cup, and my mom was always particular that she had to have a matching cup, matching saucer, and it was her best china. And then she would turn the teacup over top, and the person that drank it would turn the teacup clockwise 3 times. Then they would tap on the top of the teacup 3 times. Then my mom would ask them just certain questions like, how are you feeling, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And then she'd turn the cup over and she would peer into it. Now what happens is the tea leaves that were in the bottom of the cup slowly start to fall down around the edges of the cup, and it leaves gaps in the tea. And in those gaps in the tea, you can see images and things, and I guess it's kind of was like her crystal ball. I can do it too, but to me, it's just as easy as holding somebody's hand and getting in tuned with them and then telling you what you see from feeling, right? She just used the teacup, I think, as her tool for that. It gave her better focus, I guess, for her sight. That is what the tea leaves was all about. And she had clients come all the time, and I used to hide underneath the kitchen table and listen to everything that was going on.
That's interesting. Nostradamus used to look into a bowl of water, and he would stir the water, and he would pick up on images from the undulating water, the little ripples and patterns in the water that he would make, and then he would come up with his quatrains, the 4-line prose poems, which was interesting. And also that was during the Inquisition, so he couldn't come out and say what he wanted to say because he would have been guilty of witchcraft and would have been burned at the stake by the Inquisition. So that's kind of interesting. I guess it's halfway similar. So aromatherapy, I was saying I don't really know a whole lot about it. I used to burn incense when I was a kid, but smoke really messes with my singing voice. I can't be around anything that's burning. I don't, I can't even light candles. It makes my sinuses bleed.
You could do a diffuser with essential oils. A diffuser you plug. Okay, diffuser is it can be looks like a light bulb. They actually have really nice Zen-looking ones that are these incredible designs and stuff. You plug it into the wall, and what it has is just a little element that heats up like a I can't remember the word, ceramic. It's like a little ceramic element that heats up, and you put in your essential oils, and it just permeates the air. That way you don't have any candles or that burning. That's one way of getting those scents into the air for you to enjoy. What aromatherapy is it's the practice of using natural oils extracted from flowers and leaves, used in different methods like distill. There's to distill, that's where they take the leaves and they kind of boil them down so that all the oils rise to the top, and then they kind of siphon the oil off like you do with the gravy and the fat on the gravy, Another way is cold pressing, where they put the leaves between two pieces of glass and they just mush the glass together for a while, and then all the oils leak out, is another way. Anyways, we use it to enhance psychological and physical well-being of clients. Knock on wood, I'm knocking on wood, I haven't had a major cold since I became an aromatherapist.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's and you can put it in so much. Like I put it in creams. I make homemade room spritzers, pillow spritzers. There's so many things that you can incorporate aromatherapy into in your life. And I have my go-to medical essential oils, I call them, that I keep on hand, like lavender and tea tree are my two number ones. If you're gonna have essential oils in your house, lavender and tea tree are the two that you should have. Their lavender is like the go-to oil. It's good for skin burns, irritations. It helps headaches, insomnia. It's good for like calming babies in the bath. It's an oil that you can apply neat to the skin, which means you can apply lavender essential oil directly to the skin without any contraindications. Tea tree you can too, but tea tree is a little bit more caustic. Tea tree is like an antiseptic and antiviral. It's an antibacterial. It's good for actually, tea tree is the reason why I became an aromatherapist. My oldest daughter had plantar warts, and the doctor wanted to burn them off, and she's quite strong-headed. And there was no way she was going to let the doctor get near her to burn the warts off. So I had one friend say, tea tree oil. And I'm like, what? She goes, yeah. You put, you have to be vigilant with it because it's a natural product. But she says, if you keep on her, it'll go away. And I did. Lo and behold, I put clear nail polish around the wart on the good part of the skin, and then I applied 3 drops of tea tree oil to the wart 3 times a day, and it was in the summer, so it was, it was a battle. But after like 9 weeks, they were all gone, and they've never come back.
Wow, that's impressive.
So then I was, okay, it worked. Now I need to know why. So I became an aromatherapist.
Do you ever use it for any form of meditation?
I do. I burn essential oils in the diffuser or incense. Not all the time. Sometimes I'll get a feeling. Something will tell me, you know what, today you should use this for your meditation. And I'm just like, okay, that's what my gut's telling me to do. That's what I'm going to do. So, yeah, incense and essential oils that I burn for meditation all the time, most definitely. And they have different properties like crystals, too. Like you have essential oils that, are good for astral projection, are good for depression, are good for there's so many avenues. It's all part of naturopathy, using nature to heal yourself.
So how does it make you astrally project, or how does it support astral projection?
It doesn't make you, but it helps, it can help calm you down, calm your brain waves down, put you in a more deep meditative state. The calming oils like lavender and rose and geranium, certain scents, so they just have an automatic calming effect on your physiological being. So just by smelling them, it's already calmed you down, so it gets you that much closer to your meditative state than normal. It's kind of like instead of going from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds, you're going to go 0 to 100 in 5 seconds.
Wow, cool. I wanted to talk about cats. You are what did you say? You're a cat? Let me read that again.
A cat rescuer?
Julie, the feline philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that came.
What do you mean by that? You're feline philosopher. What does that mean?
That is the message I got on my second astral projection. I'm totally new to the whole astral projection world, so it's like my astral body has ADD, attention deficit disorder. I've got shiny key syndrome. It's like, oh, I'm here, oop, I'm there, oop, I'm here, oop, I'm there. I can't seem to focus myself to stay in one spot at one time. It's like, as they say, your attention goes where your attention flows.
Right.
I have an attention problem. So on my second astral projection, my spirit guide, who I don't have a name for or anything yet, he, incidentally enough, appears to me looking a little bit like David Wilcox, because I think he thinks I find that comforting. I'm not sure. But that's who I look for now. I look for somebody that looks like David Wilcox when I go. But he grabbed me on the second one and kind of just said, you have a mission. And I'm like, oh, I'll stay and listen for this, because, I've been searching and looking, and I know I'm meant for something, just haven't figured it out yet. And he says, your mission is to spread positivity in the media. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And he goes, you're the feline philosopher. And I'm like, I am? And then I got an image of my Maine Coon cat, and it's like, I guess you guys, have you had the voices or the images in your brain? It's like, it's not really like words. It's hard to explain how they communicate in language to you, but he was like, this is your mission. This is what you have to do. You have to be positivity in the media. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, you're the feline philosopher. That's your brand. You're going to brand yourself. You're going to see it's going to work. It's going to work. It's the feline philosopher. It's going to work. And I'm like, okay. And then I felt myself slipping. And I go, but I don't understand. And he goes, you have to tweet about it. And I'm like, as I'm fading away, what's a tweet? I don't know what a tweet is.
Oh, you didn't know what a tweet was.
Yeah, I've never been on Twitter. I just have a normal, my normal everyday Facebook account for my friends and family. That was the only social media I ever knew. And so I went tweet and Twitter, and I'm like, okay, Twitter. And then I got on Twitter, and then lo and behold, the feline philosopher and the Philosopher is all available. And I checked the website, and the website's available. Purr, yeah. The Philosopher. Well, the feline philosopher was taken. So I'm like, okay, I've got to put a play on this. And I went, purr, exactly. So that's how the name came about. And I started in March. I went on in March, and I said, okay, I'll figure this out. Set up my Twitter account, did one tweet, and then I don't know. It skyrocketed. I got so overwhelmed after I got my first 1,000 followers in the first couple of weeks that I actually stopped tweeting, and I had to slow down because it was too much for me too soon. So I've, yeah.
Sweet overload. Well, people love
and I met John and Jim very early on, and Jim Mallard, thank God bless his heart, took me under his wing, pun intended, and told me how to work Twitter, and I guess he did something in me like John did, and we got talking too, and said he needed somebody to help him promote his show, and I said, well, I'm at home on disability, laying on my back, flat on my back, and I've got nothing better to do, and I've got nobody to talk to, so at least it'll be helping me out, like brain-wise, and it has.
Yeah, just stay stimulated.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Talking to people every day. Like before, the first 8 months, I was in my bedroom, in bed. My husband's at work, and that's it. I watched TV. I couldn't read. I can't read because of peripheral vertigo, so reading is very hard for me. I can handle like a tweet and a web page, but that's basically about it. And so I was going insane, not having anybody to talk to, being isolated from the world, and it's helped a lot too.
Wow. And then you have kitties? You have cats?
I do. We started off with rescuing a baby kitten whose mother, she was born outside, and her mother got hit by a car. So my daughter promptly scooped up all the kittens that were under her gallery, and they found a home for all but the littlest one that needed medical attention a little. So I said, I didn't want any more pets, because after I had lost my Great Dane, I was like so heartbroken. So I was like, no, I don't really want any more pets. And then she's like, well, come on. And he was so cute and so small. She's a little tuxedo kitty. She's 3 weeks old when I got her, so I had to nurse her, and she started the ball rolling, and then we adopted another black cat that was, in a puppy mill. She was an Oriental short hair, which is basically just saying she's a Siamese cat that's all black.
Uh-huh.
And then we ended up saving a mother and daughter kitten that were also both black. The baby was born actually in the pet shop and spent the first 6 months of her life in a cage with the mom at the pet shop. So we seen they'd been there, like the mom had been there previously while she was pregnant, and then it's like, I said, fine, make us a deal. We'll take both of them. This pet shop just does rescue cats. They don't do anything else. It's just all SPCA rescue cats and dogs. And so we ended up with them, and then I said, that's it, 4 cats is enough, no more. But then Thomas, the philosopher cat, oh my goodness, he made a connection with me, like a psychic connection with me the minute our eyes met. And I just turned to my husband and I said, I'm sorry, babe, we're not leaving without him. And
where did you
so
see
I went
him?
in and, at the same pet shop that we go to, that we get all our stuff at. He was there, and I said, can I see him? And they're like, oh, he's a little skittish. He just came in from, another SPCA that happened to close down, and he's like really bad off, like human-wise. And I opened up the cage. He leaped into my arms. He put a paw on each side of my face. He leaned in and he kissed me.
Oh,
and everybody, and everybody just went silent, and they went, okay, sold.
So he's a Maine Coon. What color is he?
Yeah. Oh, what a Maine Coon. He's like the tabby. He's like the beiges and the grays and the blacks, like the tabby with the M on the top of his head, the real, Maine Coon looking one with the big fluffy tail, like a raccoon. He looks like a raccoon.
Like a raccoon.
Without the mask. Yeah.
I have a girl Maine Coon, and she kisses all the time. She's a kisser. Oh my goodness, she's a lover. Right? She's actually she's got dark colors, but she's got a red spot in the middle of her head, and it's kind of mottled coloring. It's not solid. And you know how they have like the second and third layer of fur, and then the big fluffy tail and the M on and the tufts in the ear and the tufts between the but she was a rescue kitty, and she's my baby. When you
Does she have the
them,
extra
you fall in
toes?
love.
Does she have extra toes?
Yeah, I don't think so. She might be part something else, but she's got a lot of the, she can't really tell us her whole story because she's from the pound, but she's got
my guy
characteristics and quality. Yeah, we don't know your whole story. We don't know your pedigree. Although her story was that they returned her. Somebody took her and returned her. And I looked at it and I go, how could anybody return this little baby? They said, well, she, what do you call it? She suckles. She suckled horribly.
Yeah.
Because she was so little. She just suckled horribly. So we had to break her of that.
Oh, he still does every now and then.
She does, too. We were away for a couple of weeks, and we came back, and they're suckling again. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm sure we bored everybody with cat talk, but those who understand cats
we love kitties. They're such spiritual animals, though.
They are. They're really amazing beings. And so you are the cat philosopher. And
the feline philosopher.
The feline philosopher. I understand now. Thank you for humoring me. I wanted to talk about cats for a few minutes. Karen, I believe it's your turn.
I don't have cats. I have dogs. And Brett walked in the house right when I was reading the intro. So if you heard all that tap dancing, that's the little toes on the floor. They love to tap dance. So tap dancing dogs. But I mean, no, I love it. And we have twin dogs, and they're morphogenetically connected. So I've taken pictures of them because they always sleep in the same position, even if they're across the room. They'll lay with their legs out, or they'll curl up in a ball, or they'll curl up in opposite balls. I mean, it's weird, and it's a lot of fun, and they're a lot of fun. So I think pets. I hadn't had pets in a long time. My last dog was like a therapy dog. She was so sweet, and unfortunately, she went through the death of 4 family members, and it just messed her up. So she couldn't handle it. She didn't stay with us. She was very stressed out. But I mean, if she just knew. She always knew. When you weren't feeling good, she put her chin on your knee, put her paw on her knee. And it was just really sweet. I ended up not being able to keep her for a while because of, how apartment situations are. And but I was able to keep her in the family by giving her to my parents. And that was especially good for my dad because he had a heart condition. He needed to get up and walk. And walking the dog was really helpful to his, keeping him active. And it's like they're like our fellow travelers, right? They're like almost like our co-creators of our life as intelligent beings, and probably more intelligent than we are. They don't really shoot at each other like we humans do. But yeah, and including all the animals. I used to live in the Pacific Northwest and I lived on a boat. Hello, I don't know what that's about, but I had interactions. Are we okay? Am I on?
My computer had a threat detected, so somebody's trying to come onto the show or some kind of virus trying to attack my computer, but we're fine. It didn't get us. Okay, good. And but I had a chance to live in nature because I lived on a boat for 7 years before I moved to Texas 2 years ago, and I was, I had some people problems there in that lifestyle, but I never had nature problems, except that was like my good memories. All my good memories were interactions with animals. One time I heard a splash outside the back of my boat. I stepped out on the back deck and I saw, get this, it was an otter, it was a seal catching a salmon under a rainbow. Click, click, that's forever in my head. It was like a postcard. Or one time I thought I saw felt someone step on in my boat. That was one of my friends. I opened the door, and there was a giant heron right in the bed. And he looked me right in the eye, and I looked him in the eye, and we both freaked out at the same time. And then he just took off and flew like a great pterodactyl wing. Swap, 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 Yeah. And that's my forever, experiences is in nature. Nature is like, when we're too far away from that, we really lose track, I think, as human beings, definitely. So that's just kind of my, and I did want to speak to the fact that you were
going through illness issues. I haven't said it a lot on the show, but I've been going through that since January. I had a really bad case of shingles, and I've literally done this show laying down a lot. So I've been really grateful for the patience of my co-host here that, you know, I've got to do it that way. And no one can know because it's not television, right? So it works out.
Exactly.
And it's kept me going.
There's no video, right?
There's no video. But it's encouraged me a lot to keep going, to for myself to think positively that I will get well. There's parts of an illness that you just don't see. And this is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Oh, my gosh, I can't stand it. And having something to do that was, you know, important to me and other people enjoyed and was meaningful meant the world, you know. So I totally relate to that, what you're saying. And I'm good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lifesaver for me anyways. And it's, as they say, you know, everything happens for a reason. So the illness has made me stop and take check and realize that I hadn't been living my life as the truest form of myself, and it could be part of my problem why I'm ill. So that's why I've decided to come out of my shell and get back into who I was before and open up all those gifts that I was given that I shut off so long ago. And then I got the message, and that was like, okay, this is what I'm doing then. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Go ahead, John.
So I got a cat story. At one time, I owned 12 cats. So let me tell you how that happened.
It's kind of like my life now.
Yeah. So before I was with the girl that I'm with now, remember we were talking ghost stories last week, and with Louisa, and that was such a good time actually. But anyway, the girl that moved in with me, who had the 2 daughters, and we saw ghosts all in through the house and the drums, the Indian drums in the backyard. Well, she convinced me to start feeding some strays, and I was against it. I'm like, if we're gonna get a cat, let's just get a cat. But she felt so bad for these strays. They were maybe, I don't know, 6-7 years or something, 6 or 7 months old, and you could tell that there was no mama cat around, that they were basically just orphans out there. And so next thing you know, we start feeding the strays. And then the girl that I was with, she and I, we parted our ways. So now I have 2 cats, and the girl cat got pregnant, and then she had 5 kittens. And so now, you know, you're locked in. You know, can't get rid of these kittens. They were strictly outside cats, but whenever I was not working, I would always go sit outside with them and feed them. You know, they would always have dry food, but I would feed them bologna and stuff like that just because they hated the cheap cat food I was feeding them. And I would spoil them whenever I was around the house. And then one of the kittens got pregnant. So before you know it, a year removed, I had 12 cats. And, and I'd love to throw this question at people, but do animals have souls? Yes, they do.
Oh,
you know,
yes,
if you've ever been if you've been a pet owner, which all of us have, if not currently are now, you can see and feel their soul. You know, when you pet them and they look at you and you look at them, you feel a connection, you feel a bond with them. It's very spiritual. Even the ancient Egyptians had cats in the pyramids. I mean, it was important to them. They were revered and almost deified.
They were deified, I do believe.
As gods, I mean, really. And you got to figure cats came from another planet and were brought here through part of the colonization a long time ago with extraterrestrials. But anyway, so one day, one of my neighbors called animal control on me. And they came out and they took them all away. They were going to find me and everything. And I just pled with them. I'm like, I told them the truth. I started feeding these strays, and it turned into this, and it turned into that. And they ended up taking them.
Wow.
So I went from having 12 cats to having none. And at that point, the cats were, feral at one point, to the point where my friends would come over with their kids, and, the cats loved everybody. So I was able to turn totally feral cats into just loving cats that curl up on your lap, you know, even if you didn't know who they were. But I wanted to touch on something else that you put in your notes here. So, you know, UFOs, ancient aliens, Bigfoot, shadow creatures. I find that really interesting. So a number of years ago, my cousin, he knew or knows that I live 15 minutes from Universal Studios. And he said, you still live there alone? I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, I was thinking of bringing the wife and the 4 kids to come down to Florida. We'll drive. If you let us stay in your house, you know, then we won't get hit with this huge bill for a hotel. And I said, you can stay in my house. You know, I got plenty of room. I live in a 4-bedroom house by myself. So if you want to come down with the wife and the 4 kids, you know, please do. I got plenty of room for everybody. I said, but I have to warn you. He's like, well, about what? I said, I don't know how to say this. I'm just going to say this, that my house is haunted and that I'm going to be working. If you're going to be here, I think they were here for like 8 or 9 days. I said, if you're going to be here for that long, I'm going to be gone a lot. And I don't want it to freak you out. I don't want it to freak out your wife. And even more, I don't want it to freak out the kids. Because over that course of that many days in my home, you will see something. Somebody will see something. And it can be scary, although I don't want it to be scary. I'm just letting you know. And my cousin, he was a total doubting Thomas. He didn't believe in ghosts at all. And he's like, yeah, whatever. You know, we'll come down. We'll have a good time. You know, it's not like we're going to see any ghosts. And lo and behold, it only took a few days. And they saw shadow people. They saw shadow people when I was gone, and I kind of figured that was what would happen. That I was working late at night, and as I do as a DJ, karaoke guy. And next morning, you know, I get home late. Next morning, the kids are all excited. They're like, oh, my God, Cousin John, you know, you'll never know. You'll never guess what happened. And so then after that, we all saw shadow people. Like for the balance of their vacation, staying at my home. And then about a year later, my grandmother died. So I fly out to Dallas, Texas, which is where they live. And I told them before they left, I said, this doesn't always happen. But often when people get to know me and spend a lot of time with me, this gift, which is not my gift, it's on loan for this lifetime for me to share with people, the ability to see into the other side. I said it often can rub off on people. Not always. It depends on the individual, but it often can rub off on people. So when I went to my grandmother's funeral, I hung out with that cousin and his kids more than I hung out with anybody else. And the kids were telling me ghost stories left and right. So when they stayed at my house, it unlocked a vortex for all of them. And from now on, I mean, the rest of their lives, they're going to be able to see to the other side. And I'm going to take all the credit for it. It was for them coming to my house because they never saw really anything before. Their father was a doubting Thomas, and now he'll tell more ghost stories than all the kids combined. So anyway, to me, they were never ghosts. They were extra dimensionals. They were energetic beings, as Joshua Kent would phrase it, onto-energetic beings. They were onto-energetic beings. They have physical presence, although they didn't. Maybe in another dimension they would actually manifest a physical body. But here in the 3D earth plane, they would appear as shadow people. So now I'm curious about your experience, Julie, with shadow people or shadow creatures.
Well, yeah, it wasn't until talking to you that you put it a little bit more in perspective for me. I've had them shadow creatures around me my entire life, like as long as I can remember. I've always seen them, you know, mostly out of the corner of my eye. It seems to be a peripheral vision thing, which I'm learning peripheral vision is where your psychic vision is. It is. But I've seen a few where I've actually turned my head and made what I would say eye contact is a few times in my life, and those are scary. You've never had a cold, icy feeling go through your veins before when you lock like orbits with one of these things. But the house that I'm in right now is actually in the middle of a field where a battle took place. There's a monument not too far from my house where French and British and Native Americans all fought, back when Quebec and Canada were being forged. There was a huge fight right where my house is, and my house is literally hotel center right now for shadow people. But we're on the I don't bother you, you don't bother me sort of frame of mind. I know they're there. I see them, and they like my room the most for whatever reason. My cats won't come in my room when they're in the room with me. But my Maine Coon has started to come in regardless because he's very protective of me, especially when I'm not feeling well. Like when I'm my sickness, I throw up for about 3 hours every day before I get my nausea under control. And that Maine Coon is right beside me, holding my hair like a good girlfriend would. And he's recently, he'll be in my room if the shadow people are here anyways. He doesn't like it, but he's decided that he's standing his ground and he'll come in. But the other cats won't even cross the threshold of my door when the shadow people are in my room. I always thought they were just dark spirits. Like if a nice person dies, I kind of figure they're the grayish, misty white ghosts that you see. But if a serial killer dies, I always thought they were more of the shadow people. They have a darker essence, And now I'm starting to learn all about these interdimensional beings and certain aliens being able to shapeshift, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should do more than ignore them.
Fascinating. I wanted to. Oh, Karen, did you have your turn?
It's your turn. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, let me go back to what Julie talked about. There were some other things I wanted to talk about with Julie. 1 second while I go back to your. Oh, here. I'll go back here. Okay, so astral projection. What were you talking about, John? You just mentioned ghosts and stuff. Well, yeah, we went through ghosts in the other story. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. The trumpet sky sound. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean?
Have you seen the videos that they've had online about that? They're calling it like the trumpet of God. It's like this.
I have.
It's kind of what you would think
that
the trumpet of Jericho would sound like. It's like
the shofar. The shofar.
It's actually, I've got my iPad. I'll try and Google it while I'm talking to you. They've heard it all over the world, but I've been hearing this sound. The first time I heard it, I was with my younger cousin, so I had to have been between 4 and 7. And we were up north in northern Canada, and we were up on a hill, like a fairly large hill for a bunch of young kids to be climbing, but nothing stopped me when I was a kid. With the boys up the top of the hill, and we were playing around in the trees, and we were near wires, like, the big pylons that go across, the wilderness. And it's got like all the trees are cleared around underneath it, like a tree line where all the big pylons and the electricity passes through. We were playing in that area where we weren't supposed to be. And we heard this
where we
sound.
weren't supposed to be. Isn't that where kids always play? You're not supposed to be there, but there you are.
Not supposed to be there, but there we were. And we heard this booming sound, the trumpet. And we literally stopped everything that we were doing, and we stood there frozen in fear, because it's not only a sound that you hear, it's a sound that you feel. There's a vibration, there's a frequency to it, and it makes your bones feel like they're vibrating at like 3,000 RPMs. You just kind of like, it shakes you. And we looked at each other, and then we looked up, and we kind of like, 5, 6, and 7 years old. I would have been the middle. I was the middle cousin in this scenario, and we thought are the pylons going to start falling down? Is the metal giving away? It was an eerie feeling. So we hightailed it back home, and the parents, nobody said that they heard it. We couldn't find anybody else that heard it, so we just didn't discuss it. We just figured it had something to do with the electrical wires, and we left it at that. And then I heard it again a few years later. And I'm like, well, that's that same sound, but I was in a totally different part of Ontario, and there was no electrical wires this time, and it was heard by a few other people, adults included. So I'm like, okay, I'm validated this time. And I've heard it. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard it. And recently I heard it, I think it was in January of this year, and I called my husband, and I said, did you hear that sound? It was like, you had to have heard it. He doesn't work that far from home. He's like, nope, I didn't hear it. I went and asked my neighbors, did you hear that sound? Only one other neighbor heard it, and then it slightly made the news. And I've done some research, and it's like only 10% of the available population actually hears the sound. Like, let's say you have 100 people at the house and the sound goes off. Only 10 people of those 100 are going to say, yeah, we heard it or we felt it. So I'm researching it a bit more. I think it has to do with where you are on your vibrational path, and I don't know if it's a calling or it's like an alarm for the awakening. The people that are supposed to be awakening are hearing it, is one of my theories. But yeah, it's being.
So you hear at a different frequency than the average Joe.
I'm just in tune to hear it. It's an incredible sound. I'm trying to talk to you and Google it at the same time so that you can hear it. It's literally like a mechanical bellow that comes from the sky out of nowhere. Like when I heard it in January, I was scanning all the news. I thought that it was like a warning, like, one of those warning signals for a tornado or something, and we were going to get this big announcement that, I thought, oh, this is it. They're not going to wait for disclosure. They're going to reveal themselves, and that was their warning sound, was the thought that I had in January when I heard it. It was really quite something, the last one.
So, okay, let's go around. Does anybody have a thought or idea what they think that sound would be? And have you heard it? Karen?
No, I haven't heard it. But I can say that some people are definitely...
Oh, I have it here if you want to listen. Here.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I did.
Okay. That was...
It's like,
I can play it again.
I've heard it on videos. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard it on video before, too. Okay, Karen, you first. Cool.
Yeah, that's basically the sound.
Karen, your thoughts?
Well, I haven't really. The only way I've ever heard it was I have this group on Facebook, the Earth Anomaly Research Society. So I would typically put an entry like that in there, and we have some discussion with people who may or may not have heard it. But I will say this, is that I found out like 10 years ago that I have earthquake bones. And how it works is whenever we have earthquakes in a certain, like microquake, not big enough to do much, but just enough to kind of make you feel uneasy, around 1.8 to like 3.2 or 2.8, so that's the range of the gigahertz that it is, or hertz. The reason why I found out was we were we were getting ready to have a good solid 3.2 in our neighborhood that turned out we were very close to the epicenter. But playing up to that particular earthquake, it shifted our house slightly so that we actually, our house was already crooked, and you could put a ball bearing in the middle of the floor and it would roll one way, right, towards the east. And after this 3.2 or 5, whatever it was, the ball bearing would go the other way. And so it definitely was, enough to at least change our environment. But going up to that, I kept having, I'd be laying in bed in particular because you've got all points of the bed or sitting on the ground, and you're laying there, so you're still. And I could feel like the insides of my femurs just kind of feeling shaky, like I had shaky legs or something. And I learned to get up and I run to the computer, and in the Pacific Northwest they have seismographs that you can look up online. I look up the seismographs, and sure enough, I would see that I checked the time, I checked the frequency of it, and then after a while they said, hey, we had a whole bunch of microquakes, we may or may not have an earthquake, that type of thing. And so it was really strange. And then like at least 5 years ago, I had the same experience, only this time I'm living on a boat, I'm on the water, so I've got contact with the water. And the kind of vibration I felt then was a lot weirder because it was mechanical. It was not earthquakes that kind of rise and fall, they kind of rise and fall. This was like on or off. And it was very, very much whenever it was on, it was the same frequency. There was no variance, right? And I started talking about it. Pretty soon, people in kayaks and canoes were saying they felt it. And it usually occurred around 9 p.m. And it was really strange. I know they were getting ready to dig a big tunnel up in Seattle. I wonder if it had something to do with that, but they hadn't started that project yet. So, yeah, there's people that, they could feel a vibration in their arm or their thigh or hip bones, the bigger bones it seems, even in their skull, and predict that there's going to be an earthquake at different places. That's not an unknown thing. But as far as, like, the sound situation, I could totally see why, John made reference to what Joshua Kent said about onto energetic body. I'm going to go back to that because it's an important concept that we learned from A.R. Borden. We're going to be talking about A.R. Borden next Thursday. And it's these beings that, it's a different way to classify beings that kind of interact with us. One is ono-energetic type 1, and that's just the type of beings we're talking about, like shadow people or ghosts or something like that. They're kind of manifesting here. They have some presence in them. Maybe the room will get cold, that sort of thing. But they don't exactly have like a whole body, basically. But there is, and this is kept very secret, an ono-energetic type 2. An ono-energetic type 2 being is naturally like that. That's what they are. And they're more like, I guess, stories of a shapeshifter and whatnot. They actually can manifest the body in our reality construct and interact with us and cover a lot of, issues with the government, other forces that are like, what's that? And they literally can, interact with us. Some are benevolent, some are malevolent, that sort of thing. But we're discovering these are all frequencies. This is all different types of manifestation, different levels of manifestation. And, we have a field around our body that's very sensitive. Some people are pretty, like, colorblind almost. They don't sense anything. And other people are super sensitive. And those of us who are super sensitive kind of figure this out after a while, is that we're picking up some kind of information that other people aren't picking up. So when you're saying you felt it in your body, you might even be hearing it through your body into your head and into your ears. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Except
they can
go ahead.
They can get it on video.
Okay, then videos pick up orbs and all kinds of frequencies that people normally can pick up. So
you're right.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing, and I've heard of it. I don't doubt for a minute that this is a phenomenon because there's just been too many reports.
Oh,
so yeah,
no, and I think I just seen Earth Files. Linda Moulton Howe reported it was heard again in Windsor this week.
Oh, okay. It seems like Canada's a hot spot for that.
Yeah,
am I wrong about that?
A lot in Quebec.
A
lot of here in Quebec. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was my round.
Okay, John, what would you like to add about the sounds?
One thing that I think, or one reason I think that Julie is picking up on it, and she's maybe one of 10% of all humans that are picking up on it, is her animal self, her feline self. Animals can pick up on tones that we can't necessarily hear. You can, they have these devices you can buy in pet stores that will, hurt your dog's ears and stop them from misbehaving by pushing a button, and we don't necessarily even hear the sound. But now you got to think, Julie. I mean, we live in concentric lives. We just don't live in this physical human container on the 3D Earth plane. We live in other dimensions also. So it stands to reason that you and Janet probably are cats in another dimension. And because of that those kind of senses and sensitivities will bleed through into this concentric lifetime in the 3D Earth plane as a human. And I also hear tones. I can never say that I've heard the trumpet, which kind of resembles that of the shofar, which was used in bringing down the walls of Jericho in the Bible, which is another story in itself. Interesting that is. But I hear tones, and I don't hear them all the time. And it's usually something I don't plan on. But it's tones like you would hear on television. I can hear them clear as day, and I'm positive if somebody else was in the house with me, they wouldn't hear them. But I do hear them, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I guess I could try and hone in and sharpen that acuity within my own senses. But anyway, that's my take on that. But what I wanted to talk about in this round robin on my turn is, I don't know, maybe, was it 4 or 5 days ago, Julie, we had a phone conversation.
About a week ago.
Yeah, about a week ago, and we were talking about astral projection, and when I'm done, I'll, go into some of your astral projection episodes, the ones you didn't cover. But one of them that she did cover was where she actually saw the Akashic record, and she was explaining to me what she saw. And right before she started to explain what she saw, I started to visualize the movie The Matrix. And you know how in The Matrix you constantly see these streams of numbers, letters, or binary code streaming up and down. You know what I'm saying? Throughout the whole movie you would see that. And that's what I saw. And then she explained that that's what she saw when she saw the Akashic record. And I'm like, oh, my God, you're kidding me. Because that just flashed into my mind. I got such a vivid visual of it. And then she explained it to me. She basically said, just like on the movie The Matrix. I'm like, oh, wow, how cool was that? And then Julie said, you know, if I have chemistry with somebody, these things happen when we start to talk. And I'm like, wow, that was really cool, because whatever she did, that projection entered my mind. So you figure she probably pictured it in her mind before she said it out loud. And as she pictured it in her mind, she sent it almost like sending a hologram to me mentally. And I received it and I saw it, and then she explained it to me, and then we had to talk about that. And then she went on to say, if I feel some kind of chemistry with a certain person, then I'm going to project to them and they will see what I'm seeing in my mind. So I thought that was unbelievably cool. And so you want to explain some of the other astral projections that you've had, Julie?
That was my third or my fourth astral projection when I made it to the Akashic record. And I just kind of like automatically there, because I had previously, I do a guided meditation by somebody called Paul Santisi. And he's very, his voice is very calming, and I just like the way he can hypnotically talk me down into the headspace I need to be in. And part of his technique is, this is the point where we're going to visualize. You need to have a game plan. You can't just astral project, because, you could end up anywhere and you won't be able to focus and you'll be too distracted. So you need to go in with a game plan. And so that day, my game plan was meet my spirit guide and, oh, what the heck, I want to see the Akashic record on a whim. I wasn't expecting to get there. I was totally not intending on it happening. It was just kind of like, I'm just going to throw it out to the universe and surprise me. And it did. I got there like right away. I got sucked up into this black, it almost felt like, I'm doing it now if you're getting the image, it almost felt like a black velvet experience. Like if you could live in black velvet, that's kind of what it felt like. And then all the numbers and the digitals was like streaming, like, you know, those curtains from the 70s, those beads that you would have hanging on strings and you would walk through.
Oh yeah.
Like the beaded curtains from the 70s.
Right.
It was kind of like that, all like hanging and streaming down. And I said, "What do I do?" And he says, "You just have to put your hand out into a stream, and you'll get whatever information you need to get." And as I reached out to touch it, I bounced again. Like I said, I had ADD. I don't stay very long in too many places. But I have another friend that's been trying to teach me a little bit more on remote viewing, so I've been tackling that in my last meditations, and I seem to be getting better and better at, you know, popping up. Like I'll try and get to a location and I'll look for a certain object, and then I'll come back and I say, "Was this object on the table?" And it's like, yeah, that was the object that was on the table. So I'm getting better at it.
Mhm.
Fascinating. The astral projection, the first time it happened, scared the living daylights out of me. I wasn't expecting it. My doctors had told me to do meditation to calm my brain with all the activity that's going on it. So I had been meditating every day for about 4 months, and I happened to have been in my bubble bath on this day, and I had my earbuds in, and I was just really, you know, the temperature, it was almost like I was in one of those deprivation chambers, you know. The temperature of the water was perfect. I was totally 100% comfortable. It was in the middle of the day, and I was listening to my guided meditation, and all of a sudden, it was like I was a helium balloon, and somebody let go of the string. And I just felt like I just went up. So like it was like falling up. It was literally like falling up. And when I got to a certain spot, I kind of like stopped and bounced a bit, and I was like, I was so afraid. My heart gave such a jump that I snapped back into my body so fast that I bounced in the water and emptied half the water onto the floor. And then I sat there just going, did I just astral project? I just astral projected. It's true. It does exist. There is a Santa Claus. So then now I've just been on a mission to be able to stay there longer and get more messages and work on my channeling. But like I said, it's new. It's a new experience for me, and I see how much energy it takes. So I only, you know, it's not an easy task, I guess, for me yet. I'm still fine-tuning my frequency, as somebody says.
Yeah, well, I've astrally projected all my life, but I have no control over it, so it seems. And it seems like at night now that I've been doing it so long that I go to my other life. So is that astrally projection, or am I really there? It's really hard to determine what exactly is going on. My early astral projection is just much different than now what I'm experiencing. It seems like I'm going to other planets, up on spaceships. They're still trying to sort it out. When I come back into this body, you know, I deconstruct with my husband as much as I can, and we're just trying to figure it all out. But life seems to be a lot more than what we think it is.
It definitely is.
Yeah, to stay open to experiences, and if you don't block yourself, you'll start having more recollection of what's going on and remembrance, and to be able to eventually integrate it into your totality of existence, which is much broader than like this 3D place that we come to. So, well, we're running to the final part of the show. Who wants to go next? Karen? Do you have let's kind of wrap this up, okay? So
yeah, I got a suggestion for astral projecting or remote viewing, or however you want to look at it. We have used the term at Thayer Borden, extension neurosensing. You know, you use actually all your senses, not just viewing. And I learned something from a particular experience is that literally when we go different places, if we desire it, we can literally like bookmark that location. And the way to do this is to, when you're still in that sort of space, is to say either like be or like dwell, like the word be or the word dwell. And what happens is you kind of leave a part of your multi-dimensional self in that space, and then you just periodically go back and go to that bookmark. And the more you do that, it's like the neural network of spirit is like the brain. Like if you practice to play the violin, then every time you practice, you're building muscle and brain memory, and it gets stronger. So when you have different aspects that you go to, there's different places I go to very quickly. It's because I've gone back and back and back. And I learned this simply because the being that I encountered in that space just simply said to me, dwell. It's in big capital letters. I'm like, okay. So I sat there for a while and, looked at the space and everything, which was kind of like a big giant bubble in this particular instance. And then I just felt like part of me was there. And so I went back and I frequently go back. And every time I do, I find that there's it's like a place of learning. I learn a little bit each time because there's a lot to learn in that space. And I just learn each time I'm making a connection. And over time, I've learned quite about this particular space. So, yeah, you can kind of bookmark yourself. That even works with interacting with beings. You can kind of, because we have a temporal life. We're running around like little, rats in a maze kind of trying to get life going and get things done. A lot of our guides and ancestors, they're kind of in a restful situation. They're not quite as frenzied as we are. So they totally understand when we have to cut it off and, deal with life and then come back. And so I found that, I'll make a contact in a moment, and sometime during the day I'm driving, I'm kind of bored and I'm just driving, and I'll make a contact, chit-chat, so to speak. It's like going on I call it the Internet, INNERNET, the Internet.
The Internet.
And then and then a lot of times if they want to get my attention, we're talking about tones, I'll have ringing in my left ear. It's like a phone call. I'll say, okay, I'll get back to you later. I'll come back, and who is it? And I'll kind of make a connection. So it's like, this is really like what our regular Internet that we have on planet Earth, which is worldwide. This is like the training wheels version of this other interconnectivity telepathically, and we are meant to communicate on multi-channels at once, It's just that we got cut off from that, and we're relearning that skill again, and that's a normal way humans have to communicate with one another. So it's just we're coming back into it, and I liken it to this idea is like being Irish and Indian or Native American. That's my heritage. You obviously see, that back in the day there was a period of time where the shamans and the druids were very connected to the other world, the spirit world, and all that. And then it's like when you go in a tunnel and your cell phone won't work or your radio goes off. Right? So we're like in a tunnel in space, time, whatever it is, where we're not as able to access that for a while for whatever reason. That was a part of space. And so then we got things like books and religion and other things to kind of prop up our idea of the spirit world. Well, that is, we're coming out of that tunnel, so people's antennas are back up, and we're picking up signals again in this era, and we're going to get better and better at it very rapidly because we're at the end of that tunnel. And then all of a sudden, books are cool, but how much better to just know the knowledge, right? Just to know it, have that knowing ability and cultivate the knowing. That's an important thing. Books are great, but books are just simply taking thought forms and knowledge and putting it on a page. And we've already now gotten away with books. We've got everything in our pocket. We've got the whole world's libraries in our pocket. And pretty soon we're going to realize all the knowledge that we ever needed ever is available in this etheric library, computer matrix, whatever it is. We're trying to use our human, understanding to understand it. But we have something called the knowing, and that is it's like water. Like you go to get water. If you have a teacup, you get a teacup. Hello, cat. Cheers, barbecue. You have a teacup full of, knowledge. And if you have a vase, you have a vase knowledge. And if you have a pitcher, you have a pitcher knowledge. Our answers that we need are in the shape of the questions that we ask internally. And so we're going to learn that cultivation of that, and we really always had it. We just sort of forgot we did. Like you forgot you had your radio on, and you get at the end of the tunnel, and your commercial comes on, usually, right? That's how it works. Okay, so that's my 2 cents, and it's been a wonderful conversation, and I'll pass the stick to John.
Okay, so Karen is editing my next book, which we're hoping will be out in the next month, if not by the end of this month. So we're working on it pretty hard. I had a conversation about it today, but I've created a section where I call it the daily download, as I am constantly receiving information, and a lot of the time it's nothing that I try to generate or manufacture through my own thoughts. It just pops into my head, and then we all do that. Wow, that was good. I got to write that down. Janet, who writes also, I'm sure we all do it. So something that came to me at the beginning of last month: astrally travel within your own concentric selves to another dimension in which you exist. And that got me onto the whole concept of dream walking. And
Okay.
I think Julie and I talked about this about a week ago, where I'm learning how to dream walk. So I'm dreaming, and all of a sudden I start to become conscious, and then I go, oh, wow, I can actually control where I go now. And the second that I do it, I snap out of it. I'm learning to get better about it. But once again, astrally travel within your own concentric selves to another dimension in which you exist. And that's what I've been trying to do. I receive these little movie clips where I see myself on another planet. I've talked about this quite a bit, where I'll look down and I'll see that my skin is blue, that I have 4 fingers instead of 5. And then I'll look up into the sky above my head, and I'll see 3 huge moons or planets or something. We only get 1 moon, but whatever planet I'm on here, there's 3 moons. And then I look down, but still looking up into the sky, and then I see a formation, kind of like the Air Force or something, of UFOs flying in formation through the air. And then I look off maybe a half a mile off into the distance, and I see a biodome with a city inside of it. And then I look down at the ground, and I see my feet in the earth or the sand or whatever the terranean surface is made of. And I try and go through all of my senses. I try and, of course, see what I see, but feel the earth beneath my feet and smell the air, even taste the air. I try and go through all of my senses to make it even more real, as if I'm really there. Kind of like Ingo Swann, how, he ended up finding himself on the other side of the moon and saw bases and stuff, and it freaked him out. So I thought that was really cool. But anyway, okay, so there's my talking stick. I just wanted to throw that in before we wrapped it up.
Well, I want to add one more thing, actually. I did get a message. You're right, John. I did get a message the other night that I've been deciphering, and it has to do with the sun and it becoming white. Yeah, I forgot about that. I had actually wrote it down. I'd just come out of my meditation, and I had written to you because I had visited somebody, and I was trying to figure out who it was. And it wasn't you. It was somebody else that had gone to their garbage can that I snuck up on.
Oh, yeah, that was last night. Yeah, I was working.
Yeah. But they showed me a firestorm, and I was trying to figure it out in galaxy, and I was trying to think galaxy firestorm, and then the more I got thinking about the image, it was the sun. They were showing me a picture of the sun, and it's changing. It's getting hotter. It's changed. I don't know if you've noticed lately, but
that is true.
When I was a kid, the sun was nice shade of lemon yellow, like a nice bright yellow. The sun is white now. Like if you start looking in pictures and stuff, that it's losing its yellowness. It's turning white. It's burning brighter, white hot. And not just Earth is heating up. Like all the planets are heating up. That's another thing about this climate change. It's not just Earth climate change. It's planetary climate change. So no doubt that we haven't helped our situation, but I don't think that, humans are the complete cause of the climate. Earth just does it. it just does. It heats up on its own. You can go back and look at, thousands of years of paleoclimatology, and they'll tell you, the Earth goes through its own heating up and cooling down. There's been hot periods and ice ages, like all through recorded history of Earth, and long before we were doing all our carbon emissions. So there's more to it than what meets the eye. But my last message was there's something big coming, and it has to do with the sun.
I noticed that the sun's coming up in a different place. And noticed the sun rising or setting, the sun rising and setting in different places than before?
Have you noticed the moon being upside down?
I've had people report to me that they've seen two moons and that they've seen in both sides of the sky and other anomalies of the moon location.
Well, that would be your Planet X, your Nibiru people, thinking that it's supposed to be visible. Like soon, there's not going to be any denying Planet X because anybody that has a pair of binoculars can see it in the early morning apparently already. But I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet. But that's one theory for the two moons in the sky is one of them belongs to Nibiru.
Well, we have people reporting and taking pictures on, a couple of the different Facebook pages. You can just Google it on Facebook and look at it yourself. What do you think? What's convincing for me is they'll have a sunrise or a sunset or whatever, and it'll be over a body of water, and there's two reflections. It can't be lens flare. It has two reflections on the body of water.
Yeah.
So something's going on.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that was part of the theory about the sounds, that the Earth is making sounds because the Nibiru's proximity, calling a gravitational effect on the Earth, slowing it down or speeding it up, and that's the moaning is about. It's like,
and causing
another astral, another cosmic body is having a gravitational effect on the Earth. So all that's possible.
That actually, just as you said that, in my heart, it rang true.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have just a few minutes left. Let's do the final round, and we'll go to Julie. Well, we'll end with you, Julie. But what would you like to say to start this final round of conversation?
Oh, me to start the final round. No, I was just going to close with my final message that I got from my astral projection, but
okay, we'll come back to you then. And let's just hear final words from Karen and John, and then we'll end with Julie. Okay. Karen, final words.
Oh, yeah, we just kind of went on many different topics. I just want to now I have this thing where if we talk about cats and Egypt, I'll have a dream about the goddess Bast, and I'll feel like a cat. We don't have a cat, but I'll feel like one's walking across my bed. So I'm looking forward to that tonight. And if we talk about shadow people, I'll see a shadow. So I'm in trouble. I'm having an interesting rest of my weekend. But I have to talk about the shadow people, too, because I had a living in the marina that I did. We saw them. They would pass in front of the large lights that lit up at least the southern part of the marina where we were at. But I had an experience where I lived on a boat that was over 100 years old. What happened is we had a deep port, and you had to use shallower boats to go into the narrow depth part of the port. And I was living on this boat that was, I think it was like over 100 years ago, might even been 150 years old. I was very old, and it's still going. And what would happen is I would sort of see a shadow outside somewhere on the dock. And all of a sudden, the bow of the boat or the front would feel like somebody pushed it really hard with their arms. It was next to the dock, so that was possible. I look out and I go, I think it's a friend making a prank, but that's not what happened. Well, one of the times that happened, I looked at a shadow reflection on the side of the boat that was next to me, and for all the world, I saw it looked like a guy with a man standing there. It looked like he had the pea coat, the old-style pea coat, with this collar up next to his neck. He had one of those old fisherman type of, hats and a pipe. I mean, it was the perfect silhouette. And my boat was the only one moving. Everybody else's was not. Mine was the only one. So I figured that at least one of the shadow people I encountered was the previous owner of this boat. And it was a haunted boat, But it was like, yes, those are happening to people. Like I said, it's a corner of your eye so much of the time. So we have this all around us. We don't need to deny it. We can talk about it with each other, even if other people think we're crazy. This stuff's really going on, and if you're experiencing it, it just means you're coming into that frequency and vibration where you're having those kinds of experiences, and that's what we love to talk about on Friday. And I'll just say, I think you, Julie. Thanks for sharing. It was very thought-provoking, and I'll love to hear your summary at the end.
Okay. I want to say, so we're going to go to John, but I just wanted to add real quick about the shadow people. I was living in Honolulu, and someday I was out of my body astrally, and I was looking at my body, and there was this shadow being. It's kind of like it looked solid. It looked solid, like it blacked out the world around it. Wherever black was, there was no light to get through whatsoever. And it was going towards my face. It had its finger pointed towards my face. So I'm outside looking at the shadow being, realizing that's my body. It's like, oh, my God, what is it going to do? So I popped back in my body just as it touched my, I sleep with my mouth open a little bit, and it touched my front tooth. And I felt it, and I heard it in my head, and I went, and then as soon as I went, it bounced away and it left. So that was my experience with the shadow people, and I thought, well, I'm crazy. But of course, years later, you find out there are shadow people, and you're not crazy, and that was one of them. So anyway, that was a brief thing. John, what would you like to say? And then we'll get back to Julie.
Okay. So this was a download I had a couple months ago. And this actually happened to me also, but our souls exist in concentric lifetimes, timelines, and time loops. An entity or extra-dimensional can travel astrally through you if you are already in the timeline or time loop where they want to go. You can eject them if you can catch them. In the meantime, you're having what you would call a screen memory or a dream, which disguises them on their journey through you, and that our souls, especially us here on the show tonight, are highly coveted for this supernatural, transdimensional practice because we are mediums, and a medium is, a plane in which you can travel through. And so this was happening to me. I was having a dream, and in my dream, some character who was called Silver was about to shoot me. And I woke up, and all of a sudden I see this red orb that was kind of shaped like a spaceship, like a flying saucer, exited my body. And I started to pray and meditate on protection because I felt it was very negative. And whatever this entity was, it was using my soul as a means for transportation to somewhere where it wanted to go in one of my other lifetimes. So I thought that was pretty deep, and that was an actual event, and then a download I turned it into also.
Wow.
So those are my final thoughts. Julie.
Julie, take it away.
Final thoughts. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I've learned a lot by speaking with the Reverend Poke, and I will continue to do so. I'd like to give a shout-out to Jim Mallard and the Mallard Report and all my buddies on this show. Keep ducking. And I'm open to all the new possibilities, and I'm very open-minded. And my mission right now is, like John had said earlier, I'm a positivity pusher. I've started a positivity rebellion, and if you're looking for an uplift or an upbeat or a humorous way of looking at your life and bad things, look me up on Twitter. I've always got a nice thing to say and lots of positivity things to to put out there and different quotes and stuff. I'm always available to talk. People come to me for counseling. I'm not a counselor. I don't have any schooling, but I do have a very good way of listening and a different way of looking at problems. So I seem to be able to help people in that way, at seeing their obstacles in a different light, which is what it's all about, is moving forward in a peaceful, kind way and connecting people, letting them know that we're all connected, not just people, but, you know, plants and animals and everything. I recently have taken to, I've become a vegan in the past few years, and never really thought much about, you know, you're a vegan, I'm just eating my food. And then I was watching a show that showed us that plants have feelings and emotions and a consciousness too, and I'm like, no. So now I'm thankful for my food before I eat it. My husband thinks it's funny if I do it at the restaurant and I start thanking my food. Oh, thank you. You're so good, you vegetables, you, and I'm going to appreciate your nutrients in my body. And he rolls his eyes. I suppose it's supposed to, you know, help your digestion, and apparently it's true.
That's very nice that you appreciate your food. I read Robert Heinlein when I was very young, and he talked about Michael Valentine Smith, who was born on Mars and raised by interdimensional beings. Anyway, to cut to the short, he said to grok your food, which was the appreciation of your food, because everything is alive. Everything has consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's going to donate itself to your existence, then it's time to appreciate it and grok it. So, yeah. Okay, I think that's our final thought for today. Bless your food, grok it, appreciate your life. And anyway, Julie, thank you. And John, Reverend Polk, thank you for being here today. And Karen, as always, it's been a great pleasure to be on a show with you. And the show will be archived, and we'll have it available. It's about half an hour, then it's available. And I do encourage any listeners or anybody that comes and happens upon the show in the future, please download it. Please spread it far and wide. The more we talk about all these things, the more we wake up everybody on the planet, be conscious and aware of things outside of our normal boxes that we tend to think about in terms of, and embrace our paranormal lives. Okay, that's it for today. Oh, there was a caller, but I think it's kind of too late to take a call. But I wanted to say aloha, love, appreciation, and blessings.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Mahalo. Thank you.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.